Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast.
What is the special episode with y'all? And we brought Jake along for our first ever Hall of Fame episode. Now, Joe, why don't you tell the audience? Well, first, Jake, say hi to everyone.
Hi everybody, I'm back from the Tribe of Nerds, and I'm excited to be a part of this podcast.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
a this
If
is
you
gonna be
don't
a
know
really
who he
exciting one.
is,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, I was going to do a joke about Big
Ryan's
Brother
internet is
for
really bad,
targeting
so
us.
yeah,
So
Ryan's
let's
internet's really
go.
bad, so definitely we're gonna be working through this a little bit. But yeah, no, thank you, Jake, for joining us for
Yeah.
the first inaugural season of the Day After Survivor Hall of Fame here. I was inspired by this idea a little bit. I saw this video about there was at one point a Survivor Hall of Fame. That
Mhm.
was a thing. But there's a lot of recency bias. Like Survivor players were the ones who were kind of doing it, and so sometimes they would like nominate some weird people or all that kind of stuff. So I figured like now, like having it be a little more fan intro, like inductions are going to be kind of like a more interesting take here. Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, I'll explain the formats to everyone here. We each are going to be nominating three people each. This has to include one man and one female, along with one person from either gender that you can choose for as your third person. We will be doing a snake draft for the Cookie King Matt out there. He is a huge advocate of the snake draft, so this one's for you, Matt, if you're watching. Uh,
It's also nice, too, and fair. Not just because it's the best way to do it and not just to stroke Matt's ego, but also it's fair. So Jake doesn't get fucked over with everything, or you don't get fucked over with anything, or I don't get fucked over with everything.
Yeah, I've
yes,
learned my lesson with the snake draft. So,
yeah. Exactly. So yeah, we'll each have three people. And in order for someone to make it for past the nomination phase into being inducted into the class of 2024, you have to get all three of us to agree. One person that says that this person does not deserve to be in the first ballot Hall of Fame, that person, like will essentially not make it. There is a chance for them to make it if only four or less people have been inducted. We will then reintroduce all the people who we said no to, and we'll essentially debate everyone out to figure it out. But I feel like I feel confident that that's not going to happen in this one here. I just feel like there's so many like legends that need to be in the Hall of Fame first. So, I mean, maybe we have
Specifically,
some.
Zelensky.
No, Jelensky is happening here.
Listen,
uh,
I found a loophole in your logic.
I am.
I only have to make sure we get four people in,
no.
and then we need a fifth, and then I will go all night, and until y'all, it has to be majority.
Listen, okay. So also,
I
in order to veto and like say no, you have to have a solid reasoning. You can't just say no. I don't like this person, or no. I don't like that this person said no to me. Said no to this other person who I drafted, so I'm going to say no to you. You definitely have to make sure that you're providing like a valid reason for why you think they don't belong in this first Hall of Fame. Like, there's
Yeah.
definitely some people who I think are potential future Hall of Famers. Who I might say no to this specific like a year, because I think that they'd be better suited for maybe in a couple years from now, because they're just other greats that kind of need to get picked first.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm excited to see who you guys bring up. I think you both know at least one person that I'll be bringing up.
Q.
No.
Oh my god, Ryan's just gonna give us the cast of 46 and say this is the most Hall of Fame worthy
Yep.
season ever.
And I will veto every single one.
I'll veto every single one of yours. You want to play hardball, Jake? I'll play hardball.
Just as I explained that you have to give valid reasoning, Ryan
Yeah,
comes in
I
with
yeah.
can give valid reasoning. I've played Hellscape. I know how to bullshit answers.
uh,
All right.
We've
uh,
all played Hellscape.
That's true.
yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, it's bad. Don't
Uh,
play
It's not
Hellscape.
that bad.
yeah, okay. Well, let's get to the wheel here. Okay, so this person will be drafting first. Okay, and it is going to be. Okay, I guess I'm drafting first.
Oh, good.
Good job, Joe.
Oh,
This shit is rigged.
to be fair, I actually think drafting third is best because you get to like let other people potentially draft people that you might want. So drafting first actually, I think is a disadvantage.
Hmm.
Ever the optimist.
All
Well,
right, I'm second.
Yeah. See, Ryan, congratulations, you won the draft or the the wheel.
yo, you said it. You said it. You said it. I won the draft.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Uh, so yeah, that means I guess I got my first pick here. So I feel like there's just a very obvious pick for me that I'm going to pick first, who just like if he didn't make this, then I think we'd have to restart the drafts or the nominations because we would have fucked up. And that is the king Tony Vacos himself. Um,
Yeah.
two-time
Period.
winner, two of the best games that Survivor ever played. Even his game changers, while it's short, he goes out there in his second boot, entertaining. Like he
Oh,
gives us the
yeah.
entertainment in that little bit of time that he was out there. Um, yeah, I just think that he's also someone that was very inventive. I feel like he ushered in like that new wave that kind of carried through into the 30s. Like he kind of created that like the paranoid, the split vote, the vote blocks. I feel like he kind of actually was someone who was really utilizing a lot of that before like names and kind of how everything was being attributed to it.
Yeah.
Essentially Russell 2.0, but with a better social game. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how he came onto the scene,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, I think he's just by far one of the best players Survivor's ever seen.
Absolutely no arguments from me against Tony. I love Tony. Kagian, I didn't think he was going to win. I don't think anybody thought Tony was actually going to win that season. And
Yeah.
then he did pull it out because Wu screwed up. Um, and then yeah, Game Changers, he went wild and crazy and flamed out in the premiere, which was fantastic either way. And then
Mhm.
Winners War, I didn't think Tony was going to win either.
No one did.
And
I
as
did.
soon as it, well, as soon as it got to like the extortion episode, I'm like, Tony's gonna do it. And then I was
Yeah.
nervous again, the finale when it was him and Sarah Lucina doing fire, and then like, oh crap, is Tony gonna lose here? But he was just so entertaining all of Winners at War. So, um, every season he is. But yeah, no arguments for me.
Yeah, I feel like with Tony, especially his date, I feel like it's always tough. And I feel like this is also argued within the Survivor community if like a legend is formed like within their first season or once they play again and then they're kind of like a bit more established. The thing is, it was like the caliber he was able to play on his very first game where he was a huge target, but at the same time he was always his social game and his strategy always kind of kept him ahead. His bag of tricks, whether
Yeah.
there were actual
Mhm.
tricks in there or not, it was just the idea of the bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Him introducing that, the spy shack, the spy burrow, the spy nest, like he has been resourceful. He's always been thinking of like other creative ways to spy on people, to gather information. And, you know, he, especially someone with a reputation like he did, and like coming on a cutthroat season like Winners at War, being able to navigate that with being probably one of the strongest winners on that
Mhm.
season going in.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and that's the whole thing of like, all right, I'm going to be on probation the first half of it. And then when the next one is going to use my social connections to really go forward, got all those wins. The extortion episode
Yeah.
where that one, it was just like a master class of like all the things he had to do because it was like damn near impossible odds. Like I remember watching that, I'm like, oh man, Tony is screwed. But no, he did the thing and he was able to participate in the challenge, get the advantage, and then, win the challenge, pay back
Mhm.
his dues of fire tokens easily.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest episodes of Survivor of all time.
Yes.
Like just
Agreed.
straight up, it's crazy how much Tony has to do for the things that he wants to accomplish, and it happens.
And
Like,
then he
and it's
gets,
uh
yeah, he blindsides Sophie, like who is one
yeah,
of the biggest threats to win Winners at War at
yeah.
that point.
Essentially
So
forces Sarah into having to work with him, whereas
yes,
before
yeah,
she had options, and now she doesn't have options.
right. Perfect,
Mhm.
perfectly executed.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think he's just like, obviously one of the greatest of all times. I feel like everyone else seems to agree, but let's go to a little vote here. All in favor of Tony Vlachos being in the Hall of Fame, say aye.
I
I
Aye. Okay, we got our first Hall of Fame inductee here in Tony Vlachos. Um, Let's now move on to Jake.
Okay, I'm gonna save a couple of my other picks for later. I think we got to get the other two-time winner here. Let's get Sandra Diaz-Twine here. I mean,
Yeah.
she won her first two tries in Islands and Heroes versus Villains, which are regarded as two of the greatest seasons of all time, along with Tony's two wins. Uh, so like, I think there's no argument there. With the fact that she won on her first two tries on two great seasons, and just like she revolutionized really the as long as it ain't me strategy that
Hmm.
other winners adopted. And then, when she came back, yes, she never got to the end again in any of her other appearances, including on Australian Survivor. But every time she managed to make it farther than she should have, realistically. Like Game Changers, she should not have made it through like three or four tribal councils that she did, and she got swap screwed, and that's how she got voted out. And then what was it? Then Winners at War. I mean, she screws up with giving Denise the other idol, but realistically, Denise probably should have taken out Tony there.
Hmm.
Um, so like I can understand Sandra's rationale, and then Blood versus Water again kind of gets swap screwed, and like someone that she tried to take out gets saved by non-elimination. But uh yeah, no, I think Sandra Diaz-Twine deserves to be on the list as well with Tony. We got to have the king and the queen.
Yeah, I
all right.
100% agree. Yeah. Oh, were you gonna say something, Ryan?
I actually want to. I'm not saying that I'm going to vote no, but I do want to bring up a very solid point, an argument against Sandra, which I do think is valid. Do we think someone that sits out of challenges often, has a bench named after her, is worthy of being an all-star? Because it's one of the things where I know most of the gameplay, like there is no necessary win condition to playing, or like you don't have to win challenges in order to win the game. However, it is a risky strategy of like, oh, I'm always going to sit out. And lesser contestants have been eliminated for always sitting out or not being reliable. What are your thoughts on that against her of like being considered one of the greatest? Yes, she is a two-time winner, but also she did not contribute in some challenges, being famous for that actually.
Well, to that point though, like she never got the flack for that and never got voted out because she was bad at the challenges. It's always like eventually, oh, we actually have to take Sandra out here. It was never oh, she's such a liability that we have to get rid of her. And also her strength has never been winning challenges. I mean, the reason that people are going to accuse her of quitting Winners at War, which is a BS thing. She got voted out in a fantastic blindside and then knew she had no chance of getting back in the game in a challenge. She knew her strength was not there and she wasn't going to beat Tyson, Boston Rob, Natalie Anderson, like who are all going to be trying way harder and are way more athletic people that are going to be much better suited to these challenges. So I don't really blame her at all for the challenge thing as someone myself that is also bad at challenges.
Mhm.
So I personally don't necessarily think that should be held against her.
Yeah, I don't hold that against her. But my only thing with Sandra is like, I think her wins aren't necessarily like the greatest, like of her personally. Like she kind of gets there with maybe some people who the jury doesn't like or respect or
Yeah.
anything. Um,
That's fair.
and it feels like there's always other people who navigate the game and create that end game state, and then she kind of just like slides on in and is like now is like here, which fair, like that's a way to play the game of Survivor. Not my favorite way to play the game, but at the same time, I can't. I'm not gonna sit here and say no to Sandra Diaz Twine. She won the game twice. She is, for years, was considered one of the greatest players that Survivor has ever seen because of being the first two-time winner. Um, so yeah, for me, it's just like she's not like the most entertaining person for a lot of the times. Like she'll have like the big moments where she'll blow
I
up,
can
but
get
like
loud too.
yeah, she'll
Yeah.
she'll have like those bursts in the seasons, like the like pockets of like entertaining stuff, and then like you gotta wait to get to those pockets for like long stretches.
Yeah. I do agree that she does slide through most of the time in Heroes versus Villains. If you look at it, she is like basically willing to like flip on what actually ends up helping her game, which is
Mhm,
trying to get the heroes to take out Russell, and they keep slamming the door in her face, which leads to like her being able to slide through to the end with Russell and then Parvati, who's guilty by association in that season.
mhm,
And but what I will say to that, I'm trying to think of my what my point was. Oh, I was gonna say Pearl Islands. I mean, yes, she does do that, but like to get to the end with Lil, but she is like a huge reason why that Burton vote goes off.
mhm.
Like the women get together
Hmm.
and blindside Burton and trick Johnny Fairplay. Like that, she's a huge reason for that. So, um,
Yeah,
I think if she has the ability to steer votes, she will. We've seen that when she's come back while she hasn't been as successful as I said,
mhm,
she has still steered votes in the direction that she wants to. So
yeah. Um. Okay. Well, I guess that being said, let's take a vote here. All in favor of Sandra Diaz Twine making it to the Hall of Fame, say aye.
I
I.
Okay.
all
I
right,
was
Ryan.
We need to have some entertainment value here. I feel
yeah.
like the people we're gonna bring, I mean, we're not gonna bring like, some obscure someone from the mid-teens or stuff like that. I feel like we are bringing like a lot of like great people here. I don't think
Yeah.
there's
Mhm.
gonna be,
Yeah.
maybe as we get into like our wild card picks, maybe, but I highly doubt that there's gonna be anyone that's like
Yeah.
not worthy of it.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we're not controversial yet because the point of this is for it to not be like,
We
look at
will
this
when
hot take.
we will when Joe brings up Russell Hands. Uh,
Oh boy.
I actually don't know if he'll make this. He might be in the next one next
we'll
year.
see.
We'll see. It
All right.
depends.
All right. So my first one, I don't think you guys would suspect this person to be my first pick, but for my first male pick, well, one of my the male pick that I have to do, I am choosing John Cochran. I think anyone who
Okay.
has ever played a perfect game, especially at an all-star season where no one wanted, they knew his threat level going in, and he was able to maneuver everything, basically be the front runner of the season, or like I would say pretty much like merge. The fact that he also was on the bottom of his OG tribe way back when in South Pacific, was able to maneuver through that, whether it was like plot armor or something like that. And then also, even if it didn't get him the win, also was like, screw you guys, took the guts to go against his team, and then come back, play one of the most dominating games in Survivor history. I think that John Cochran is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame.
I will say his Caramon game was obviously really good. I will say the South Pacific game I don't think should be to his credit because he made a flip that basically took him from at least being sixth place to being seventh place. Like he basically made it so that he went down a spot. Like I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think his South Pacific game is that good. Yes, he made it through votes, so I'll give him credit there, but when it came time, he made a move at a horrible time and it destroyed his entire game and his jury management was very bad if he had somehow made it through.
Yeah, yeah. I think what he needed to really do in South Pacific was flip and then flip again immediately, like trying
Yeah.
to like make the numbers dwindle like that. But he
Mhm.
just flipped and then his tribe wanted nothing to do with him, and so
Right.
it just kind of ended like that.
Yeah.
Cochran, yeah, he's an interesting one because I was like going through my head. I have like a list of people who I was like, these people are definitely good options. He ended up not making this list because I was just like he has like one really great game
Hmm.
in Karamoan. And then, but the thing is, like, he is one of the most referenced players in Survivor
True.
after this. Like, everyone is saying you're a Cochrane type. That's the new term for a nerdy person going out there is that you are Cochrane.
Yeah.
So, in that vein, he's also one of the most influential people in Survivor because now any nerds that go out there are Cochranes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
Not
a
only that,
Nerds.
to expand upon that, they even had a challenge, a reward, where you basically, well, he was basically a reward when they went to when
Game
Debbie went to
changers.
exile
Yeah.
and get aim changers, where he was able there to like, be a consultant and everything. There hasn't really been, apart from Island of the Idols, like really, but that was the theme of Island of the Idols. There hasn't really been a Survivor contestant that just is there to be like, hey, I'm here to give you pointers and kind of like bounce ideas off of you with the game. So I
Mhm.
think that also speaks volumes to Cochrane's not only legacy in this game, but also status and how good he is at it.
Yeah, I agree with that point that you made, Ryan. I think like he and both of you made like he is one of the most influential players. He played a perfect game his second time that shouldn't be taken away from him. And what the very next season after he won, like Brad Culpepper's referencing him in Blood versus Water,
Mhm.
like that's how quickly like everybody knows this guy now. So it's like um yeah, I mean, I think the arguments have been convincing enough, at least for like Caramel and onwards, for like him to be possibly be included here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I was targeted in an org. I got put on threat level because someone said I was like Cochrane, and I was like,
Bet you wish.
yeah, I was like, oh, okay, well,
I feel like that's something people would use against me.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, yeah, I just seemed like I was a nerd. I guess I don't know. I think it's the generic, just oh, this guy must be smart. Let's just call him Cochrane. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, yeah, this is like one of those tough ones where it's like I think he's like I'm on like the precipice of wanting to say yes,
Mhm.
but I'm just like I'm not fully sure yet. This is a tough one. This is like what this
It's
probably
another person. The thing
mhm,
is, he would have been on Winners at War too, but the thing is, it's because of like his kind of like
yeah,
relationship with now CBS. Not a lot for those who don't know. It's not a bad one. It's a really healthy one too.
Yeah.
And how much he's
uh,
consulted on everything that he just straight up cannot come back because he is
Yeah.
so interwoven in everything
yeah.
going on there.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's the unfortunate thing is like I really wish he had one more like outing to like be like even if it was just like he makes it to the merge and then gets taken out, like at least there could have been like one more because right now it is really like he has this one really great game, one like okay game, and then that's it. So
Mhm.
I'm just trying to I'm weighing the thought of just like is one game truly enough to like merit making
That's
it.
literally, well, I mean, like that's how winners are made. There are
True.
plenty of winners out there that have not returned.
Yeah, but like for Hall of Fame, a lot of the times it's like multiple repeat successes that usually leads to like people making it into like a sports hall of fame is like constantly, going out there and showing kind of like being able to do it. Cochran has shown that he did it really great once, not like mid tier another time. So is that truly good enough for Hall of Fame? Is
I feel
okay
like
and great.
if we were just basing it on people's first game, then no. No. But I feel like his second outing was so strong. And the fact I feel like anyone that is able to play a perfect game is just like fantastic in the caliber that it the thing is like I think that alone is a convincing enough like point to be worthy of it. Like like Earl Cole even well he got vote. Like JT, I feel like JT is someone where, all right, he's kind of like the antithesis of that, where like he played a perfect game his first time and he's had like diminishing goods. If it was
Yeah,
something like that, where this one it was like, okay, Cochran got really like even better the second time when he had that reputation of someone
flipping.
that went against a tribe that
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
going against him and stuff. I feel like he is someone that improved way beyond like what his first game was, and
Yeah.
that one game
Mhm.
is the legacy of Cochran.
Yeah. Now here's another point that we haven't even talked about is he played great against Karamoan that I don't think is a very great cast. Like he
Yeah,
is a great
that's
player, but he's not playing against like like true all stars. Like the fans tribe of that tribe is like a random assortment of people from Brand Steel. Um,
yeah, the fans aren't even actually fans for the most part.
Yeah, so it's a weird thing where it's like, yes, I agree. He played a great game, but there's also like the competition of who he was playing against. A lot of these other all stars who come back and do good in these all star seasons, we get to see them against a lot of the great competition, and they get to kind of like square up against legends. I feel like Cochran never really had to like truly go mano a mano with some of these legends. Like, I mean, South Pacific, there's like Aussie and Coach, which were the closest things really to legends. But he that wasn't the game that he did very well in. It was the other game where kind of like I guess what Philip and
Philip, Brandon Hance,
yeah,
Oh,
Francesca,
you
like
can't just bring up like the worst of that. Come on, like we're also talking Malcolm. We're also talking
true.
like come on. There is like some merit to like the thing is he still played a perfect game.
That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I see Joe's point, but I also again he did play a perfect game. It takes a lot of skill to not get voted for one, but then to get every single jury member to turn around and vote for you to win, like
Yeah,
that's very
es-
difficult to do.
especially on a season. I feel like the quote unquote bad cast thing could actually work in his favor because if there are so many like quote unquote incompetent slash mid players, and Cochran is the clear tallest blade of grass amongst them, that's an even bigger target on his back.
Well, the thing is, you got to remember the perception of him going into the season. It was not that he was a great player, and he was considered a weak player because of his South Pacific game and his natural status. So he actually, in a bad tribe, got to somehow seem like he was one of the weaker players of that tribe until like near the end game when just everyone was all focused on who they were taking to the end. So it took a while for people to really even think of him as a threat on that season. It wasn't he wasn't like I'm coming in this season as the best player. It was something that he definitely had to earn throughout before he got the reputation.
To be fair, I will say threat management is also something like that you have to take care of, and I will say like he
Yes.
Mhm.
managed his threat level pretty well to make him continue to be seen as a weaker player.
Yes.
So, um, so I don't know. I think I'm convinced to say yes, but it's gonna hinge on Joe at this point.
It's going to hinge on Joe and how
Yeah,
merciful he wants to be.
I know, I know. It really could be a coin toss. It could go either way. Okay, everyone ready to vote?
Yeah.
We are we're gonna wait on Mr. Coin Toss over here. Fucking Two Face.
No, no, let's
All
let you
right.
two go first, and then I'll go. It'll be more
Okay.
dramatic that way.
All right.
Okay.
Those in favor, including John Cochran, into the Survivor Hall of Fame. Aye.
I.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Ooh.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's a close one. I really think that it could make sense if he was next year. But I do think that his legacy in Survivor is still just one of the most well-known people I feel
Yeah.
on in Survivor history. So for that alone is really what like kind of inched it just barely over to me saying yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Sweet. All right, welcome, Cochran. All right, all three of our first picks made it in there. So my next one, she is one of the best social players ever. She has played 4 times, only had one bad outing, and that was mostly because of an idle play. She every time she's been eliminated was because of bullshit. We're
Mhm.
going with Suri Fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone where one of the most relatable characters, one of the best, I think, are inarguably the strongest social player within the game because like she will still like try like I know I brought this up with Sandra, but I feel like she's someone that will still like try and challenges stuff like that and is usually perceived as a weak player. However,
Mhm.
her social game and especially in a game like Game Changers and stuff like that. I don't off the top of my head know how many times she was in tribal council pre-jury, but she is
Game
someone where
Changers was none, right? Or are we talking about as in her career?
in we can do career as well, but I'm talking specifically Game Changers because I know that really got her in it well, I mean like it almost didn't get her in Heroes versus Villains too because like her tribe was willing to keep her even though the heroes were not performing well. It took Tom
Right.
playing an idol
Mm-hmm.
to, do what
Get
had
her
to be
out.
done.
Yeah.
That is how great her social game is and how much everyone
Yes.
wants to work with her. And I'm not even going to mention her conquests outside of games because I feel, well, and because this is Survivor. Um, but like, she is, but to like kind of like also just kind of like add to that, her accolades outside of Survivor as well, only just like prove like how great of a player is if like the resume she had on here wasn't enough.
Yeah. For me, yeah, Suri again has gone out in such BS ways all throughout her Survivor career.
Yes.
Pa Panama, she goes up Final Four to fire making because Terry has a super idol that he's guaranteed to get to the final three, which is very much BS. Like that fire making shouldn't have even happened.
No.
Uh, then Micronesia surprise final two when it was definitely going to be a final three, but like all the medevacs slash quits of Penner and Kathy and James made a final two, which I know like she should have anticipated like the number of days, but also like
Yeah.
it still kind of sucks because like it really was going to be a final three, and she was playing for that. Gets taken out there. Heroes versus Villains we've already talked about with the idol play, and then Advantage getting that idol play on steroids in Game
Yeah.
Changers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I feel like if advantage again didn't happen, I feel like granted that's 2 more rounds she had to go through for that, but I feel
Mhm.
like she definitely had a very strong case of making it to the end.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I definitely feel like she could have probably been taking out at 5 at 4 if they were like, hey, but I mean like, hey, we might need to get rid of Suri. But I feel like she also like with the people that were left and the people that followed her out the door, I think
Mhm.
were people that could have definitely and like that could have definitely made an argument as like, okay, maybe we do take out I know she won the season, but Sarah Lucina, okay,
Yeah.
we do take out Aubrey here. We take out, like I feel like it was like because correct me if I'm wrong, Culpepper wins out basically, and
Yep.
then Troyzan just kind of gets taken to the end. And so like I feel like that final slot could have been pretty much any one of the bunch, and it was like Sarah throughout her game was able to just make it there. I feel like there is a possibility because I feel like Ty is a big threat. I feel like Aubrey is a big threat. So Suri might be able to scrape on by and get into that finale. Um, and she has the social skills to do it because, like we said,
Yeah.
she's never been voted out, voted out. There's always been like a idol play or like,
Hmm.
okay, fire or obviously Parv and Amanda were gonna go take each other to the end. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean she's the best player to never win is Suri Fields,
Hmm.
which I think is very fitting that she's the first non-winner to be nominated
Yes.
here.
True.
Um, so that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, what else can you really say about Suri? She's just so entertaining. Her story also of being the person from the couch who got up and got on the Survivor.
Hmm.
I think is so great. She was also one of the people who we see this on Survivor all the time. Someone who is about to be a first boot.
Yep.
Like very possible that Suri is a first boot of the season of Panama, and we never see her again. But she
Yeah.
manages to get herself out of that situation, and because of that has this legendary survivor career that we just love to watch and see. And then she's also been on all these other reality shows as well, and has done very well in all of them as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I think she's 100% deserving. She was on my list. She was someone who might have been in my wild card spot if she hadn't been selected yet. So I'm glad that you're picking here.
Yeah.
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 I think
All
this is the
right.
most obvious yes of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. So let's make it official. Three, two, one. I.
I
I
Sweet.
okay. There we go. Okay, look at that. So far, everyone has made it onto the Hall of Fame. Let's
We have
go.
to try
yeah.
pretty hard for someone to not do it.
I feel like
But
Jake might pull it out here. I feel like we might get let's let's
Oh
see if
dear. Yeah,
don't put that pressure on Jake.
I'm worried that this isn't gonna fly, but I'm gonna go for him anyway. Let's get another non-winner and one of the first survivors I ever met. Let's get Malcolm in here. And for me, Malcolm was so close to winning Philippines. He literally was playing a great game to get to the point he did, and then screws up by telling Denise he doesn't want to go to final tribal with her, which in fairness, like the only thing I can say is that he rightfully should want to like go without having Denise there, who has the same story as him. But also like if he just says yes, at least says yes to Denise, or like he goes to the end with her, I think he still wins. Like I just think he's like a full all around threat in everything there. Caramon, yeah, he doesn't play as well as he did in Philippines, but he pulls off one of the uh, biggest moves up to that point with the live tribal. He creates live tribals, really, with the double idol play. I don't think anyone had ever really seen that. And I guess in Philippines was the closest thing he with the Jeff Kent tribal with the idol bluff there as well. So he really created these live tribals for the first time. And then unfortunately the three amigos do get picked off, but Malcolm tries his hardest even when things seem hopeless. And if Corinne doesn't screw up, I think he's probably able to recover a lot better there and be in a better position in that season. And then Game Changers, he gets screwed over really badly because the other tribe knows that he's like the biggest all-around threat from that side, and they can completely destroy that other tribe, that alliance, by taking Malcolm out of the game. And if it had not been for JT, um, and a really sucky twist, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's my argument for Malcolm. I think he should be included because he again has a legacy. He created live tribals that are now like a big thing in Survivor since that point. So.
Ryan, how about you go? Because I have thoughts.
I know you have thoughts. Okay, so I know Malcolm. I think the biggest argument for Malcolm, and I'm not saying like I'm either A or nay. My
Mhm.
vote is open at this point. But I feel like when you're comparing the long-haired challenge beasts, obviously Ozzy comes up as well,
Yeah.
and then
Well, yeah.
Joey Amazing also comes up. And then we're talking about, like also one with like social game. I will say, like, out of the three that I mentioned, I feel like Malcolm's social game is probably better. Like sometimes Ozzy runs people the wrong way.
Mhm.
To like like even go back, like there are some things where I'm like even the first season of like Cook Islands, I was looking at Ozzy and I'm like, this guy is a prick sometimes. Uh
Yeah.
but and I feel like with Joey got like a lot of love his first season, but I felt like maybe diminishing returns. But with Malcolm, I do feel like apart from controversy with one contestant we're not going to name here, I feel like Philippines, if it wasn't for that one contestant, like that, is a top 10 season.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like it is definitely competitive when it comes to him and Denise. I feel like Denise going in there has the best story of like, I
Oh, yeah.
legit am
Mhm.
the person that went to every tribal council in the game. I feel like it would have been a tough battle. I would say it's so hard to say. Does Malcolm win? I think he has the charisma and stuff that to say sway the jury. I'd say it may be like a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
60 in favor of
Mhm.
Malcolm. But I do feel like Malcolm is one of the people where we get excited to see him. He is someone that people do want to see play again. Apart, I'd say his uh his elimination on Game Changer is another reason why we want to see Malcolm play again because he got so like kind of he was robbed straight up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like with Game Changers, it took a lot of like great contestants, and it was like, hey, let's just get rid of, let's make every like pre-merge elimination feel like a gut punch.
Yeah.
Um, that was basically Game Changers boot order in the beginning. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Joe.
yeah. Ryan kind of nailed it with the like the archetype. I feel like he's not the
Mhm.
best of this archetype. And he's also like in that archetype of being like a challenge beast. He's actually not doesn't hasn't won a bunch of challenges.
Well, yeah.
He's
I'll say that. Yeah. Mm.
yeah,
I'll give my argument for I think he's a better player than both Ozzy and Joe. I don't think Joe's that great of a player, to be honest,
no,
aside from the challenges, and Joe hasn't done
yeah,
some great
yeah,
things. Um, and then Ozzy, I mean, Ozzy's social game is not as good either. I mean, as Ryan brought up, like Cook Islands, even he rubs people the wrong way. He also goes and pouts when things don't go his way. Like, I
mm,
love Ozzy,
yeah,
but like let's just like we've seen it in both Cook Islands and South Pacific. He lost someone like pretty early in the game and went and sulked and like pouted because the tribe went against what he wanted. Um, and so that's not great. And if that doesn't happen with Malcolm, Malcolm just goes and tries to recover and tries everything he can to fight back against like the majority that just got their way and doesn't like give up on that front. So I think out of the three, Ozzy's definitely the best at challenges. I mean, maybe you can make an argument for Joe in the challenges for sure, but I think Ozzy is the best challenge beast of the three. And then I would say Malcolm is the best all around player out of the three.
yeah. I think that's definitely fair. I feel like he's definitely a Hall of Famer, but I do think he's a future Hall of Famer. Like
That's fair.
I think he's like someone that if we had you for year two, he probably is like a lock, I think, to do it. But for me, he's like in that realm of like really good survivor players, but not in the echelon of the people who we just talked about, of the Tonys, the Sandras, the Cochrans, the Cerise. Like, I feel like they're all like just in a different like tier than Malcolm. Like Malcolm is like right down here, which I think is definitely easy to penetrate when we do it for year two. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I can definitely I definitely feel like he's just a little below some of these other players right now.
That's very fair.
I think Joe makes a fair point. But I still think that Malcolm is a pretty awesome player.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
I get that. So I feel like he needs that fourth try to actually like solidify it.
Season
Whether
50, here we go.
I hope so. I need to see Malcolm back.
Honestly, yes. Honestly, yes. Season 50. He needs that redemption.
Yeah, I just don't know that they're gonna do it. But he did play Snakes in the Grass. He did win Snakes in the Grass,
Yeah.
which he was up against Ewell and Earl Coles. So I mean, he
Mhm.
had two people who are bona fide survivor, potential survivor legends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think he proved it a little bit there, but I think that's the last time we've really seen him since Game Changers. Unless I'm wrong, but I think that's the last time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
also don't watch every reality comp. There's so many, but
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I
he
remember
made
watching
fire.
that specific episode. I saw
yeah,
that one and I saw the one with Stephanie LaGrossa as
and
well
Suri,
and
yeah,
Suri. Yeah,
Hmm.
I definitely I think that's the only episode I watched because I heard Earl and Ewell and yeah, mostly Malcolm. I was like,
yeah.
I gotta watch
Oh
this.
yeah.
Uh, okay, well let's do the voting here on Malcolm. Um, okay, all in favor say aye.
I
I
I'm sorry, I gotta say nay. I gotta say nay. I am so
I
sorry.
boo.
I think he's really fun. I'm
yeah,
excited for us to do this next year and for me to put him through. But I think for now, I think we gotta wait.
that's fair.
Fair. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so I got to the next one here. And I'm going with another person who absolutely Mount Rushmore of Survivor has to be on this list, I feel, and that is Parvati Shallow. Um,
I agree.
just I mean, how many Parvati 2.0s have we seen? Like we're up to like Parvati 17.0 with how many times that people keep getting referred to if you're a flirtatious or a pretty girl, like you got to be Parvati.
Yeah.
And it is like cursed so many people. Like her reputation is seeks into every season, it feels like at this point where everyone has is talking about Parvati. One of the best wins in Micronesia, just with a Black Widow
Hmm.
brigade, one of the most iconic alliances, coming back in heroes versus villains, and being one of the biggest threats, and somehow managing to get all the way through from like
Yes.
episode one is
yeah.
incredible. Um, and and that's again that's playing against true all stars, like some of the best, and being able to somehow come in as the biggest threat and survive is
Mhm.
ridiculous. And then obviously like Winners at War doesn't do great, but still one of the later like of the old era kind of players.
Yeah.
Still having some fun stuff there. And yeah, no, I think just in general one of the most iconic players Survivor's ever seen.
Yeah. I, to kind of expand a little bit on the Winners at War thing, I feel like there was a moment in the very first episode where, you have Parvati, you have Boss and Rob on the team, and like they're talking about eliminating people, and their names are not coming up. And they're like, wait, are you for real? And I
Yeah.
feel like in this one, and I feel like this is one of the crazy things about some strong players. And I feel like even us being org players, sometimes there are some people with reputations where it's like, I don't know, do I make a move against this person right now? Because they're
Yeah.
they have this such big reputation. It's like, do we go after that, or am I cooked if I go after it? And I feel like Winners at War, and to kind of circle back to like Sandra, she even had that reputation. It took an idol to take her out
Yeah.
for that. But like with Parvati, like she very much was like out of the old school people. Like that wasn't even an option. They were like, "Hey, let's take out Natalie instead." But like she was definitely someone where they were a little afraid to take her out at first. And yeah.
Mhm.
Also, I will say in Hellscape, I did do a borderline Parvati game where I was able to flirt a little bit. I was able to,
Oh.
oh yeah. Uh, there was some flirtation going on in Hellscape. There was also like a little bit of like, the social threat of everything, not always having to be, like she's definitely much like, like Scarlett Johansson's snake in The Jungle Book, where it's like seductive snake that can very much take you in, and if you get too close, you're gonna get strangled and, as she
Mhm.
said, eaten up and spit their bones out all over the island. Um, yeah, Parvati, fantastic player, an icon of like I think just straight up in reality competition shows.
Yeah, I mean, she's all over shows now. I mean, this year, what she's gonna looks like the trailer is teasing that she makes an appearance in Trader season 3 as like
Yeah,
some part of the show. Um, Deal or No Deal Island, Australia versus the world, so she's playing Survivor again.
yeah,
I mean, she's all over the place. To be honest, I don't know if I need to see her that much, but again, she is a
Yeah,
bona fide legend, so I understand it. She, yeah, like you said, she somehow made it to the end of Heroes versus Villains when she had every right to be taken out early in that game, and she
yeah,
makes one of the biggest moves in Survivor history with that double idol play. Um, so yeah, yeah, I mean, I think this is another no-brainer. She revolutionized the flirt game to a
yeah,
T, and where other attractive women have failed.
yeah. I feel like if you pull most Survivor players of their Mount Rushmore, she is on that top four of most people's Mount Rushmores.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hell, even our Brant Steels, even the
Yeah.
Brant Steels respect Parvati Shallows. It wasn't until like what generate. It wasn't until like it took us like almost like 50 Brant Steels before she was like ever pre-jury. And even
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's the only like three-time winner on our channel too. Like even Brant Steele hails to the
Yeah.
queen.
Yeah, she all of her wins are like historic on our channel. She was our first winner, well, our first brand steal. She won our all winners at war season, and then we did a winners at war 2, and she won that one as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it's only the iconic seasons that she ends up winning, but like those are great ones to
Yeah.
win. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think this will be another no brainer. I think for putting into the Hall of Fame. But we'll put it to the vote. Maybe someone's gonna go crazy here.
You want me to
uh,
go crazy?
no, don't. No. I don't
All
like
right.
chaos, everyone. Okay.
Bullshit.
Oh,
He's
no
working. He's
way.
working. He's in my heroes rehabilitation program. Well, like
Yeah,
villain to become a hero.
yeah.
Rehabilitation. Jake is also a counselor. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it started with me having to shave my neck beard. It made me look too like me stroking it was too look
I
made
think
me
once
look
it's
like a
grown out,
streamer.
it looks good,
Yeah,
but that's neither here nor
yeah.
there, nor hair.
Okay, back to poverty. All in favor, say
I.
aye.
I,
Aye. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, okay, so that is another one into the Hall of Fame. Okay, and since we're doing snake draft, I gotta go next. This is where it gets tough because I feel like those were the two that I was like absolutely well, hands down, I gotta pick here. Now I
Mm,
got some interesting ones because I have some that I think definitely deserve it, but aren't necessarily like my favorite players. But I think that they definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So it's like, do I pick
mm.
them or go with someone who I know Jake is going to say no to? which is
I don't know. Like you never know, and you don't know what arguments could be made for said person.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay, I mean we alluded to it earlier, but I'm gonna put Russell Hantz as my my last nom here.
I think it's a
I
I
think it's
think it's a
very
legitimate
warranted.
argument too.
I think it's very warranted because he changed the scape of Survivor maybe the most out of any player. Like
Yeah.
him going for idols and like really did change the strategy. Like if you watch early Survivor, like strategy is very like stagnant and like let very group think, just kind of like do it. He does make the game have to be played in a lot more dynamic of a way. Is he the greatest person? I mean, he's not
Oh
the
no.
he's not
Oh
the
no.
greatest
Oh no.
person.
No. No. No.
But if we were talking purely from a television aspect and purely from what has been accomplished in the evolution of the game, he is definitely one of the most iconic players in those terms.
Yeah. Okay. So for Russell, I mean, his social game is not good. I mean, you can certainly argue Samoa, maybe the jury was a little too bitter. But also like I think, we saw his social game wasn't good there, and then Heroes versus Villains just his social game was abysmal.
Yeah,
Like nobody wanted that man to win.
yeah.
And
To be fair, he did enter Heroes vs Villains playing essentially day 40 of
yeah,
Survivor because
back to back.
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't get to even see how Samoa like played out in terms of it. So he had no retrospective. He thought he won that season, so he
Yeah,
was like,
that's
"I'm
true.
going to do it again, but harder." So
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a reason when you look back and you see his face when he didn't win, that he was like, "Uh-oh." He realized he messed up because he knew he wasn't winning heroes versus villains there, and he
yeah,
he just kind of saw him just kind of like
yeah. Well,
shut down a
and
little.
right. Well, I mean, I think he's gone on record as much as like I don't really like his attitude outside the game. He
yeah,
did say on record, I believe, like he did not know what was going on at a certain point of Heroes versus Villains because he'd played so many days in a row. Like
mhm,
he lost his mind.
yeah,
Um, so like I think like again, he's made such a strategic impact on the game. I mean, Redemption Island, they literally throw a challenge to get rid of him, which was
yeah,
so stupid.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
not gonna deny that.
It does cost everyone on that tribe the game by them doing it.
Yeah, because they give up their momentum to Boston Rob, and I think Russell
Yeah,
even says in that season, you can't give Boston Rob momentum, and
yeah,
they did that.
yeah.
And then he does come back for Australian Survivor. He flops very hard, which is really funny. He goes out with an idol around his neck. Like it was bad. And he showed that he really hadn't learned that much socially because he really was toxic around the camp and made the Australians hate him. So like I just don't know. Like I know Reputation. I don't think he's ever gonna do well again because of Reputation, but I also don't think he understands the social parts of the game enough to be able to get to the end again either. Like I just don't think he's able to adapt his gameplay, but because of the strategic impact he's had on Survivor, and the notoriety he has, I might be okay letting him slide through just because of that. And like everybody knows who Russell is in
Yeah.
Survivor.
Mhm. Yeah, it was WrestleMania for a couple
Yeah.
years there. He got a HGTV show after Heroes vs
Yeah.
Villains because of of his
It was Hans Mania because then Brandon and then Willie
yeah,
was on Big Brother.
Yep.
exactly. They
Like
ran reality TV for a few years.
yeah.
So
But then Willie was not on Big Brother for long.
yeah, but still,
Yeah.
But no, I feel like another thing when it comes to, and this is both, I think this is an interesting argument to bring up about Russell Hantz too, because, and I feel like reputation and legacy, where it's like, we were talking about like how he came up in future games, and then like, people didn't want to play with him. He
Mhm.
was like, no, screw you. Uh, and like people like threw challenges, humiliated him on his way out, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. Where it's like he played such a villainous game and like gave no regards to people's feelings and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
That can you really play a good game? Did you really play a good game if not only it cost you the million twice, but also where in future games no one wants to even play with you anymore?
Right. Right. That's the tough call that we have to make is the notoriety like the thing that's going to put Russell on the board here, or is the fact that he can't adapt his gameplay ever going to hurt him here? I think
Yeah.
that's the question.
Yeah, I still think just him being the first person to find an idol without a clue. I think
Yeah,
that just in general is really did change how the game is perceived because before there was like one idol that would be at like exile or just end at their camps and then that was like the idols like they're just kind of in place there. But now with him finding an idol, now it's like idol advantages can be anywhere. You know, it kind of really did. It did usher in Survivor to that next kind of like level.
evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it took Survivor, I think, themselves as production to even and casting to really like find people who were into playing that because we do get like seasons 21 through 24 in the Dark Ages. I think a little bit because of Russell, because
Yeah.
it just kind of like blew the game where everyone is expecting now this explosive, dynamic gameplay, and we don't really get that. You know, we got a lot of people who are, they know to look for idols, but it's it's still like new waters for a lot of people. Um, and yeah, no, I just think Survivor definitely would be very different if Russell Hantz is taken out early in his games or isn't in the seasons in general. I think we definitely see a very different version of what Survivor is right now.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I we'll see how this vote goes, but I think I might let it slide through, but we'll see what Ryan thinks.
We'll see.
Okay, let's see. Okay, all in favor of Russell Hantz being in the Hall of Fame, say aye. Aye.
I
I I just like making Joe sweat a little bit.
Yeah, I was noticing. I almost said something. So, okay. I actually thought that was not going to get put through for a second. So,
I feel like, well, I mean, like to what you said, I feel Russell in the sense of like impact and legacy and like what, like and this was also like kind of like on the a different side of like, with Cochran, it's like if you're seen as a Russell type, it's
mhm,
like, uh-oh, we gotta shut that shit down right now. If you seem like, kind of like stocky, kind of like tough looking guy,
yeah,
then it's like, okay, you're like, all right, fuck, even like Tony was classified as a Russell type right from the beginning, and that
yeah,
put him on a lot of people's radar.
yeah. That's why no
Um,
one thought he could win the game.
yeah,
right.
Because he was.
Everybody, yeah. Even
but
Cass
yeah,
and Tasha were calling him the Russell on the season. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I mean it's I think it makes sense to let him go through. I mean,
Mhm,
Russell's a huge part of Samoan Heroes versus Villains, obviously, and that's a big reason why Heroes versus Villains is so
yeah,
enjoyable. Because you have somebody like Russell to hate and like that it's just important to Survivor history that he's a part of it. So
agreed.
definitely, definitely. Okay. Well, that being said, we now move on to Jake, your final nomination here.
well, I had some interesting picks that I don't know are gonna get through either. But I'm gonna go with another one, because I think the other person that I would think of, will get put through. But I'm gonna go with a player that reminds me of my dad a lot, and I think his winning game was very dominant, almost a perfect game, aside from one jury vote that didn't go for him. And then his second time, he made one of the most impressive moves, and in a way, kind of got undone by pregame alliances not wanting to keep him around. I'm going with Tom Westman from Plow and Heroes versus Villains. I think that Tom is just like you first see him in Plow and you think he's going to be like the older guy, like people are going to immediately peg this guy as like a leader and like he's going to have such a big target on his back. He goes on to lead his tribe to winning every single immunity challenge and only having to lose the immunity idol Willard because they were literally forced to in the pre-merge. And like otherwise they literally go with everybody else into the merge. There isn't even a merge technically. Stephanie just joins them. And then he's able to like win most of the immunity challenges. And even the 2 rounds that he is vulnerable, people don't actually take the shot at him.
Yeah.
Like he's able to get people to not even want like think about it. Or like they think about it, but they're not able to get the numbers to do it, so they don't do it. Um yes, you can say like, yeah, he was probably in contention to go because Ian then turned on him at the end and he had to win those immunities. But I don't think Tom was ever going to lose those immunities, to be honest. And then yeah, like I said, heroes versus villains. I mean, him and Stephanie and Colby were literally on the outs of like the Micronesia pregame alliance, basically. And like it sucks like that he goes out over James who has an injured leg because they're literally keeping James around for a vote or they're trying to at least. And but like he literally makes the idol play to get Suri out of the game and gives one of the most badass quotes in Survivor history of tomorrow we make our apologies, tonight we make our move. Like it's just so good. I think Tom should be in the Hall of Fame because challenge dominance, but also the fact like I think he revolutionized the game, made Survivor history with that challenge dominance, being able to carry a tribe through and being able to reap the rewards of that by winning the game at the end. And making such an amazing move in Heroes versus Villains. So and like the de facto hero in Survivor history, I think Tom is one of the first that comes to mind. So it almost got a perfect game. So if Kobe
Yeah.
had voted for him. So I think Tom should be in contention to be on the list here.
I'm a
Yeah.
big Tom stan, so like it's looking good. At the very least, you have my vote for this.
Yeah, I like Tom. I know that he was in contention for actually being on season 40, but like health issues and
Yeah.
Yeah.
concerns prevented him from coming there, which would have. I feel like that would have probably cemented a yes. I think I'm like 90%. I'm going to say yes right now because I do think Tom in the early portions of Survivor was like really important.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about the final three challenge between him and Ian. Like
Yes,
that's
the
For
12
12
hours.
yeah, the
hours.
12-hour challenge that is, we still have references and people talking
Yes.
about that. Like whenever they want to do a montage of like or like a clip of long challenges that are in the current long challenge, like they might show you that challenge just to be like, remember this one that went super long? Wow, this one is also going super long. Like that's kind of like the go
Mhm.
to like thing to show for challenges. So I definitely think that's a big part. And then yeah, Heroes versus Villains. He's actually like super entertaining in it.
Yeah.
He's maybe one of the most entertaining people in the Heroes tribe.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Like even though he's out in what episode 5 is it?
Yeah, the fifth he's the fifth boot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's unfortunate that he goes out there, but yeah, no, if like I wish he made it further, but no, I mean he's uh he is a legend. Like
He is.
I'm definitely inclined right now to vote yes.
Yeah, I feel like another thing too is with the idol play and everything that he was able to do in Heroes was, to kind of backtrack to the whole Suri thing, it was like he had the guts to do, well, granted, his ass was on the line, so yeah,
Right.
he had to, but like he was also able to help the heroes out, even if he knew he was going out next, he was like, all right, this is what needs to be done in order for us to win, because otherwise a villain's gonna win. Granted, a villain did win, but it was like he was able to at the very least set them on the right path with that. I think
Mhm.
also way back to Palau with the prowess and everything he was able to do. And I know like challenge prowess isn't necessarily something that is needed to win Survivor to be even be great. In fact, like we even mentioned like two people already on our list who are not challenge beasts, and if anything, are known to not be great in challenges,
Mhm.
are in our Hall of Fame, and two of
Right.
which are, you know, on people's Mount Rushmore if we're talking about that. So I do feel like having like someone who is a challenge beast and is a winner and who has had that legacy and who has like a dominant win percentage, I think in the sense of Hall of Fame, I think is someone also worthy of being there, especially because I feel like he's just a very likable dude. And I think the thing is, like, I don't think Tom needed to win out too. He just had that in him. He had that dog in him that was able to win out as well. Because, like you said, Jake, he did, even when he was vulnerable, before there was really any idols,
Yeah.
before there was idols, he was good. He was Gucci.
Mhm.
Um, so like I think he definitely had the social game as well,
Mhm.
to back up everything. And I feel like with heroes versus villains, I know they got rid of or they got on Colby for being, you know, like Superman in fat suit, but also like, you know, Tom also aged a little bit, and some people are like, well,
Yeah.
what the hell? I mean, he was already like the silver fox of like Survivor back then, and so
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
so like when he came back, you know, some people was like, oh, like he's older. Well, I'm like, well, no fucking shit, guys.
Right. Right.
Uh,
That's how it goes,
what do you think was
unfortunately.
gonna happen?
Yeah.
Uh, but I think even then, like he is someone where if we're looking at like challenge dominant players, that he is the one that definitely comes to mind, especially if we're talking winners, because as we learned in 47, like one of the arguments against like Rachel was like, oh, even if you have that record and you're tied for your gender, that doesn't necessarily get you the win. But and I feel like, yeah, I think it's one thing where he has those like wins and stuff like that. And for me, that adds on to it. It's
Mhm.
not the make or break for me, but it adds on to someone's win equity. But the fact that he was okay even without it, I think speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, he convinced Karen to cover his back, even though she should not have. Like that was the impressive part of it. Like, and then just being willing to like cut her loose when he didn't need her anymore, and then because he knew he could just win out after like that point. So yeah. And he almost sued Survivor Production over that 12-hour challenge as well because they tried to
Yeah.
change it, and he convinced them like they can't do that or else he's gonna sue them. So
Yeah, there was like some issue with like the fan or wind that was getting fire into
yeah,
that started blowing into his face, and he was like, "Hey, that's not part of the challenge. That's
Yeah.
also they tried to get them to go to like 1 foot or something. He's like, nope, we're
Nope.
not going to 1 foot.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
right,
Okay. Well, all in favor of Tom Westman getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, say aye.
I
I
Aye.
sweet.
Okay. There
X.
it goes. There it goes.
This is tough now because I feel like there's so many people that are worthy of this that have not. Granted, there's always, you know, next
Yeah.
year and all that.
Yeah. But who is the most deserving of making the first class here, Ryan? You have all the power.
This sucks too because there are some people where I'm like, they should really be, I don't know. It's one of the things where, because I feel like, I'm not saying I'm choosing him, but I feel like Boston Rob is someone that has to be like discussed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
However, I feel like there are also some other contestants like Sarah Lucina and you know, Tina Wason that should also be up there as well.
Mhm.
Um, so it's like that's my pickle here because I'm like,
Yeah.
there's only one spot left. Um, and one goes to like the godfather of or it's either the Godfather or of Survivor or someone who each time she's played has done great every single time. I'm not saying that Rob hasn't, but like obviously Rob has had some rough starts in some of them, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every other season he does good. So if he plays in
yeah.
Survivor 50, he's going to win or get to the end at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. I mean, is that who you're putting up, Ryan? Because
I don't know because like all right, I like Rob, but he's not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
yeah.
This was the dilemma I had, by the way, with Russell Hands because Boston Rob was
Yeah.
the one I almost chose
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
exact reason. Is he like absolutely deserves to be here, but I also know that between us three, Boston Rob's not a favorite.
He used to be one of mine. Like I used to
Uh,
love Boston Rob, but like over the
uh,
years I'm like he doesn't he's another one where it's like he doesn't know how to not be in control, like how to
yeah,
recover. He plays well when he's in control, and then if he's on the bottom, he just completely falls apart.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does good in Deal or No Deal Island, but
Well
you
that
know, there
yeah.
was some
Yeah.
production tomfoolery or like
Mhm.
there were convenient moments where he was about to go and then it's like, "Hey, if you take this money,
Then he
uh
then
Yeah, yeah, that was
but
interesting.
all right, I will say this mostly because A, we need more women up here.
Yeah.
B, I think she is apart from the controversy of like you know her because I know there's some some things I usually just simply look at the player unless it's like really super fucking bad.
Yeah.
um so I am going to nominate Sarah Lacina. I think she's someone who has played very very strong each of her games. I mean like she knew how big of a threat Tony was, but also knew that she kind of had to work with him and is only taken out. I feel like because of the Tony blind side of everything. And Game Changers really cemented her as like one thing that I used to appreciate a lot in players is like the sleeper threat, who's someone where she was definitely in a season where okay, she is a name. Like obviously compared to Tony, a lot of eyes were on Tony, and when Tony was gone, she was like, oh, okay, just Sarah. But I feel like Sarah Lacina was someone where she was able to earn that. She's a very perceptive player. She's a very adjustable player. She also is decent in comps as well.
Mhm.
And when she comes back for Heroes versus Villain, or not Heroes, Winners at War, she is someone where she still has that target. She still like works with Tony, but that's mostly because like she just loves Tony.
Mhm.
And if she wins Fire, granted, edit is different. If she wins that season, I feel like, or made it to Final Tribal, the edit for her might be different, but I still think she played a pretty strong game in that one.
Mhm.
Um, so I think she's had solid performances each time she's played. The worst she's ever done is 11th place.
Yeah, first her, yeah.
Oh shit.
So,
I think there's a reason why I like her too.
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Interesting for Sarah because yeah, if um if this was just like after Game Changers, I don't think she's at all a Hall of Fame. I actually think Winners at War for me did a lot of boosting for her.
mhm.
Like I think her Game Changers game like is like kind of a middle like she I'll be honest, she does not pop off the screen in terms of
Yeah.
television for me. Like that is something that really holds her
Yeah.
back for me is like you can tell she's a great player and is great out there on the island. You'll like her and on with her, but that does not translate very well over to TV. Like you can, and like, and one of the things that really benefits her in terms of, I think, everyone's remembrance of her is her connection to Tony. Like, I really
Mhm.
think that that does give her a huge boost in terms of like name recognition and
hmm
memorability. Which is off of someone else, which isn't the
Yeah.
greatest thing.
I
Um,
will
okay, go
to a
ahead.
little counter that
Yeah.
in Game Changer she was able to like because Tony was gone flourish a little bit more and
Mhm.
wasn't like dominate. I will say yes, I think that is a fair statement of like she is kind of like tied to Tony. And even in like, I don't want to bring up other ones, but like, I do think it was more so like maybe the editing on Survivor didn't get to do her justice, but I've seen her be entertaining and see her ferocity on other shows. And I think
Mm,
it's more so that the editors didn't choose her to paint her in that light because like I've seen her be entertaining. I think she was one of the best parts of Challenge USA and I would say Worlds as well.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
know we're focused solely on Survivor.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's the tough thing for me is that like I think her Cagayan game actually is pretty bad. Like I think it makes sense like why she thinks oh she's the swing votes, but she kind of is really cocky about the whole thing and
Yeah,
just
the
lets
president. It was
yeah
she didn't play that well at all. She alienated Chaos Cass. Like,
yeah
I'm not gonna like yeah, I think she didn't play that well that round that got her out. And then she learns from that. And I remember
yeah
when the Game Changers cast was revealed and Sarah's a part of it. I'm like, she could do well, but also like this is the cop lady that got taken out because she thought she was the
yeah
president of the
yeah.
entire game. Like,
Yeah,
and then
preseason she was another one of those people who are like, how is she game changing? Because
yeah,
the game changer of Tony was the one that took her out. So,
I wonder if
yeah.
production ever regrets naming it that because, like, I know they didn't want to say All Stars 2 or something like that and they needed a
yeah,
theme, but like everyone is like, well, how are they game changers?
Yeah.
So they're
yes,
like, it's just the fucking name, guys.
Yeah, well, then don't bring back Haley Ford.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people who made the post merge that you're kind of like, huh?
Yeah, Sierra Dawn Thomas, another one. Like, apparently they were like, oh yeah, let's get these two
Yeah,
from worlds apart.
Don't get me wrong, Worlds Apart's a great season. However, those two would not be the first to come to mind to bring back from Worlds Apart.
No, I mean, you had Mama
no,
C right there, and you just
Who
chose.
was
yeah.
robbed from Second
Yes,
Chance.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm just convinced that Game Changers, they call like the first like 60 to 80 people that they called, like only one or two of them said yes, and they were like, "Oh, we got to scramble and figure this out," because it definitely felt like
Yeah,
they definitely dived into a lot of obscurity of that season.
I wonder if like Brad Culpepper and Troy Zan were like up there in votes, and that's why like part of why well, and that Jeff loves Brad Culpepper, but
Yeah,
like I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I think that Brad definitely had influence on Jeff to make sure that he got onto the season.
Yeah, yeah. And then Troy Zan probably had like some votes because everybody found him entertaining in one world, including me. He was one of my first winner picks
Yeah,
watching live. So like I liked Troy Zan the first time,
yeah.
but that was also because he was one of the only opposing forces to Kim.
There were only
Yeah.
two people on One World who knew how to play the game really, and it was Troy Zan and Kim. Everyone
Yeah,
else was just gonna hand the game to Kim.
right, exactly. Exactly. And Sabrina Thompson was cool too. I
Yeah, but
Sabrina
she
was
also I think was like just wanted to be a loyal player, and
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately
Yeah,
that was her her downfall is just being okay going with the dominant players.
right, right. That's true.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, but back to Sarah.
This is tough. Like I want to say yes because her game changers and like most
Okay.
importantly her winners at war game. Like I want that to convince me to say yes.
Yeah.
Um
Okay.
Well, let me. Or
I'm just
go
gonna
ahead.
I'm gonna go through everyone who's in the Hall of Fame and let's just see if we think name recognition and just like what she has brought to Survivor is in the same category as everyone in the Hall of Fame so far. So we got Tony Vlachos, Sandra Diaz Twine, John Cochran, Suri Fields, Malcolm, Parvati. Oh yeah, Malcolm didn't make it.
yeah,
Parvati.
sadly.
Yeah, I just uh, Russell and Tom Westman. Do you think that Sarah is on the same plane as those players in terms of what she has contributed to like what Survivor is?
I think
I
in the
mean
sense of like, if we're talking about the archetype of sleeper threat, or like not immediate, definitely a big threat. However, it's not the threat you go after first. If we're looking at like kind of like different representation from who we have up here, I feel like Sarah Lucina, and she is someone that if we look at people in their bios of like which contestant do you want to play most like, if it's like I would say like she's one that definitely pops up a lot. I know the go-to answer for a lot of people is like Wentworth or Spencer or like Jerry. Like we see some of them, but like I feel like Sarah Lucina is also one of the names that comes up. Maybe not as much as like I'd say Wentworth is probably the most popular one, but Lucina is like up there as well.
Yeah.
And that's also because Lucina has like the resume as well with that. I feel like she's someone where she may not be the flashiest of like Survivor contestants, but she also has the substance where she doesn't need the flash.
Yeah. I mean, she does call out Jeff Probst on his bias,
Mhm.
like in Winners at War. So I mean, like
It,
I
it takes a
think that
lot to do that call out
yeah.
post.
Yeah, that and I think that was an important moment in Survivor history because Jeff at that point needed to be called out because he for years had been like very much propping up certain players. I mean with Boston Rob specifically, like especially like Heroes versus Villains, there's literally a moment where Jeff like bashes Courtney for Boston Rob being gone. So like
Yeah.
he is not shy about his bias.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I will say one other Sarah Lucina moment, and I feel like this is something where, and this also involves a player on this list. We talk about the advantage she had and how she gave it to someone to play, knowing that it was untransferable. And now, it's up to whenever you get an advantage to read the fine print.
Hmm.
But she also was able to do that to, assess where she stood in the tribe, who she could trust, and also like, all right, are they going to really use this against me? I think it's one of those things where I think it's a move that when it came out, I think a lot of people were like, "Ooh, that was really good." And I feel like it's one of the hidden gems of Survivor. We're talking like really, I'll say unique moves that not many people have actually done. But it would definitely like I can't think of too many others, at the very least before her, that have tried to
Mhm.
like give an advantage that was untransferable to see if someone would play it, which I
Yeah,
think is very smart to do to be like see how people would act and if they're going to try and go against you or your alliance.
true. I mean, it
Yeah.
influences the Michaela vote to happen. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's very fair. It's the tale as old as time.
Beauty and the Beast.
Great player, but not the most entertaining person. Is that does being an actual great player on the island translates? That's going to be the real question in this vote for me, I think.
yeah, I don't really have a specific reason not to put Lucina in here, other than maybe like she isn't. I don't want to say she's not the caliber of a lot of these other legends. She proved that she could go toe to toe with them in Winners at War. But I don't know. I'm just like I think I'm more leaning towards yay for Sarah Lucina because I do think she has some moves and she does have the legacy with Tony that does hold up. So, but I think it's gonna come down to Joe.
As always.
Wow. So
Joe is
so
the swing vote.
I know. I feel like every time it's you two, I'm the swing vote here. So,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh
uh,
I would say my last or like my my closing statement for it is that I know she is tied to Tony. However, Game Changer proves that she can hold on her own. Um, she is someone where she has made moves. And I feel like if we're talking about people within the Mount Rushmore, if we're talking about someone that fits into that sleeper threat, because I feel like we have a very well-rounded Hall of Fame right now, and I feel like she is the I don't want to say she's the missing piece. Like this is what we need in our like, collection to have the first set of Hall of Famers to have this complete. But I feel like she is someone that is, I would say, like a Hall of Fame when it comes to the sleeper threats. And I think she has a resume and the receipts to also be up there as well.
Okay. Well, let's put this to the vote. So all in favor of putting Sarah Lacina into the Hall of Fame, say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
oh
I know, swerve. You didn't see that coming.
No, I was like, I could see either or. I could see either or.
It was a tough one. It definitely I think halfway through of us talking, I was in the no category. But I actually think what really sold me was remembering about like the legacy advantage from Sierra and kind of like that. I do think that is a legendary move that that is still sometimes being brought up in
Oh yeah,
conversation. I
that one
think
too.
I think she is in probably the best one of the, at least top three fire making challenges of all time with Tony.
oh yeah, that moment was
Mhm.
so just yeah, it
It's
was a lot.
it's one of the few times forced fire making was actually like good for the story.
Yes, it was
It
amazing. It was an
was.
amazing part of the story.
Yeah.
So oh yeah.
So yeah, I'll put her here. I definitely I would say I think there's a few other females that I think would have made it better if they were on here instead. I don't know if we want to do maybe like an honorable mention now, just to like who were some people that we were thinking about bringing, so that way we can kind of
Mhm.
talk about some of those people. I don't know if
Yeah, I'd love to bring up some other ones. So I had Rob Cesternino on my list.
mhm,
I was thinking of bringing up Cesternino. I know he had the All Stars that where he didn't do well,
Mhm.
but
mhm,
also like he was one of the biggest targets going into that game, and All Stars
yeah,
was all about getting rid of the big threats.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Rob's legacy extends to his real life
yeah,
with RHAP. I had Earl Cole. I think
Yeah.
Earl is another one of my favorite winners. His Fiji game is so good. As much as like Fiji might not be the greatest season, but I think like him and Yao Man, their game, and Earl being willing to cut Yao Man at the very end, like is just so good. I had Jeremy Collins. I think Jeremy is just very solid all the way around. I had
Agree.
Ewell, and just Ewell is one of the smartest people to ever play.
Yeah.
Uh, I did have Ozzy, just challenge beast, but I think and he is a legend in my mind still for that. But as we've said, he has very definite holes in his game. And then women, I'll just list them off, I guess.
Yeah.
Stephanie LaGrossa, Amanda Kimmel, Kim Spradlin, and I actually had Vesepia. I think Vesepia is kind of an underrated
Yeah.
winner, actually. So.
yeah. Interesting. I actually would have probably said no to any one time player because I
Ooh.
to me
Really?
I really do think in order to be a Hall of Fame player you need repeat performances.
Very
Um,
fair.
I
one
think yeah.
one time is just too small of a sample size to really know if you're actually like the best, and especially in a season like Fiji, for instance, where I think there are a few good players. I also think that there's a lot of players that aren't that great. So
Lisi, Rocky,
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so for me, I would have probably said no to Earl, even though I think he played a great game.
yeah,
I think he needs another time of doing decent. Sometimes it's not even decent. I just think as long as you come out and you can make like a footprint on
right.
another season, because like Tom Westman, for instance, I think he made a footprint on Heroes versus Villains, even though he's
Oh
only
yeah,
out there for 5 episodes. But
Yeah.
I still think like, oh, he did something. Rob Cesternino is someone. Oh, I also think made a footprint on All Stars. Like I think,
Yeah.
him talk like being the first person to be talking about Boston Rob and Amber. It's like
they're gonna do
I
it.
think they're gonna do it. I don't know when.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's definitely merits there. But if you're a one-time player, I just don't think for a category like Hall of Fame that it can really happen. I think you
It's
need
it
more.
I would say like it would have to be like, well, I can't think of anyone right now. If
Mm.
I like really, I
I think
wouldn't say I'd have to
the
dig.
closest one for me maybe is Todd Herzog.
Yeah,
Um,
Todd's
but
a good
but
choice.
even him, like I just think I need to see him out there one more time for me to I think if we did this, I'd eventually be open to them like one time players on like year 3 or 4, maybe somewhere
Hmm.
around there is when I might become a little more open because then we got more people coming in and everything. But at least for this first grouping, I was like, I definitely wouldn't have. I would have probably said nay to any one time player.
Okay,
yeah.
that's fair. For
Um,
me, trying to think of like some of my honorable mentions. Uh, I'm not gonna try and name some of the ones, Jake. Obviously, Jeremy Collins is also up there. I also and Kim as well. I will say that someone's already mentioned Tina.
mhm.
I also wanted to mention Richard Hatch because
Yes,
Yeah,
obviously the man set the meta for the entire show
yeah,
in his very first season without even
yeah,
knowing what the game or like I don't even like think that Survivor truly knew what the game was until like
yeah.
Richard was like, "Hey, this is a competitive game."
yeah,
Uh I feel like if we're talking like other big names that were out there, uh I do think Amanda Kimmel is up there as well. You mentioned him. I'm surprised Joe didn't. It's tough when you only have three choices.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Amanda is someone who is probably going to get in next year or year
yeah,
3. Like I think I don't
mhm.
think she was a first class
yeah.
survivor player. Like but
I
I think she's great.
she is great.
Yeah,
Also up there, Rupert. I feel like
yeah,
Rupert is someone where the only time he ever did bad was because
He switched with his wife.
he wanted
Yeah,
his wife to have the opportunity to play the game, which is like
mhm.
one of the biggest hero moves in Survivor's history. I
Mhm.
think Fair Play is up there too in the sense
yep,
of
Yeah,
like, okay, just fun, chaotic villains. Um, I'm, blanking on some. I feel like and I do feel like Rick Devens, I feel as there can be an argument for that. I will
yeah,
say like there are definitely arguments against him, but I
yeah,
feel like he's an argument for like a first time player to be up there because it's like so much so that Jeff Probst was like, and I believe you told me this, Joe, that they were like, hey, what if we just have like Rick Devens on the show and just
yeah.
be
yeah.
He almost was like a sideline reporter, like given the
yeah.
scoop of what was going on.
Well,
Like I feel yeah.
he was
Go
also
ahead.
almost like what they almost had for 41 like a special like Survivor saloon or bar, and Rick Devens was going to be like
Yeah,
running the saloon or shop or
yeah,
whatever.
and that was
Yeah.
the fire tokens were going to be
Yeah,
used for that. Yeah, I think Rick Devens, great person to bring back when to this conversation
For
after
season
season
50.
50 because he is absolutely going to be on season
You
50,
you would
and
have
then
to be insane not to bring him back.
yeah,
yeah.
he's a lot, I think.
Yeah, so I think when that season airs, we'll probably be talking about him in this Hall of Fame discussion. I feel.
That's
Yeah,
very, yeah. Oh, Wendell, I feel like Wendell's a good one. Well, Winners at War didn't paint
Yeah.
him in the best light, but I feel like his first win is like solid.
Yeah, I do think that there is a level also to something like a Hall of Fame where it's how you're contributing to the community. And Wendell is someone who contributes a lot to the community with all these
Yes,
watch parties and
the
everything.
watch
Like
parties are legendary.
it,
People
yeah,
fly to go see them. Not even just the celebrities, but people fly out of town to go to a Bryson win.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So in the same way, like how I think Rob Cesternino like probably deserves it mostly for the podcast. Like obviously
Yeah,
Amazon was a great game, but like the podcast I think is like almost like the catalog that
Yeah.
gives him that level to get there. I think that Wendell is getting that with all these watch parties.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say that I wanted to see if it's tough to bring someone from the new era for a couple reasons. One, new era isn't as well regarded. Two, it's less stays. And three, I to kind of contribute back to what Joe was saying about like, oh well, how will they do on a different season? It is a little tough to compare Rachel, who just won, also with the recency bias. I think that's another thing too.
Yeah,
It's like, who are the contestants that stand the test of time?
yeah,
She is someone where it's like, all right, how does she compare to a Kim Spradlin and stuff like that? And like sometimes, yeah, that does merit like, okay, maybe a second game. You kind of like see if she's on the competition with some other like challenge beast, how well does she fare? Like I get what you mean, and I don't think it's like a bad argument to be made where it's like it's more data. Like,
yeah,
yeah, when we do like an average and something like that, or like when there's like pulsars and stuff like that, they cast as wide of a net as they can.
yeah,
So I understand where you're coming from.
yeah.
That's why we didn't see any new era people being mentioned here.
Yeah, I never considered any of the new era people to be honest.
Neither did I.
I think that there's a chance that some of them might make it after season 50. Like I think that there's definitely like a case for some of the players from the new era who played great games and then maybe they come back and also play another great game and that might put them there. But yeah, I think it's just they need the time. Also in sports, like a lot of the times for these Hall of Fames, you have to at least be not playing or like 2 years removed from
Yeah.
your last season. So, it's for the new era. It's they just don't have the time yet. So, it's
No,
just
no,
too
no. 100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so yeah, it's going to take a bit before Q gets put into the Hall of Fame.
And Zelensky.
Yeah, I will say I know I know Jake hates it. I actually really think Q is going to be a 3-time player, and I think he's going to be something that absolutely will be mentioned about this in like 5-6 years from now in this Hall of
Oh
Fame discussion.
dear.
I really think there's a chance.
That's gonna be I find him. I know Jake does not like 46 at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
No.
I find Q and I feel like there's a lot of merits to. I know I mentioned Q and Jelensky a lot, but like I feel like 46 does have a lot of great merits to it. But I know like everyone has their own what they like, what they don't like. But yeah,
yeah. Okay. Well, we have it. We got 8 players. Unfortunately, Jake, you have the one person who did, which I think is like your favorite player, pretty
Yeah,
much.
wait, did Ryan put his other pick up? Because I thought I'm trying to, because it's a snake draft, right?
Yeah,
Ryan
no, no,
put,
no. We only had three, so I went last twice. So
right, you
it
had
was just,
Sarah the Cena. I'm just
yeah.
trying to make sure we're, yeah.
No, no, no. It
yeah,
worked.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have the 9 here that
Oh, okay.
I've been keeping track.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Tice.
just making
Well,
sure. I want to make sure this is
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
We
So,
got
exactly.
sidetracked, but my last like honorable mention was Tyson. But I was like,
oh yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, I'm a Tyson stan, but even I'm like,
yeah. I was
is he
afraid that you were going to pick him, and then I'd have to say no because
saying no?
I know that you love Tyson.
I know, but even though I knew like it's harder to argue like I would say it is definitely hard to argue him to be at that level. I think he is maybe a year or two, but
Yeah, I think he's a
Alas.
future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But he really has like that one really great game in Blood versus Water, and then some okay games to bad games, and like he kind of goes in that range. So he's a less consistent player than I think a lot of the other people we have on this Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like he has Tocantins, which is okay up until he like basically is too cocky,
Yeah.
and then yeah, Heroes versus Villains is bad, and Winners at War is not great. I
It's
mean,
yeah. I mean, he comes back.
It was
He eats a lot
decent.
of peanut butter.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
decent in
it
Winners at
was
Yeah.
War.
decent, but
Yeah, it's a game that I wouldn't knock like someone for playing, but it doesn't like elevate them to like the
right,
next
Yeah.
stratosphere.
right, right.
So yeah, I mean, and for me, we pretty much talked about everyone. I think Jerry Manthe is someone
Oh yeah,
also who
That's also up there for me.
definitely. I think if I had another pick, I might have picked her. Because I do think
yeah,
that she's like the OG, villainess of
Yeah.
Survivor, the OG Black Widow, and I think she also so close to winning Heroes versus Villains.
oh
I
yeah,
know.
Like
yeah.
if she doesn't get taken out there, I mean, she gets the end and beats any one of those other three. So
Yeah, and it was kind of like a fluky like elimination because it's like Russell was legitimately making such a bad call and
yeah.
like oh my God. Yeah. And she was like a second away from beating him in that final immunity.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that
So
she definitely has a lot of merits there. And then yeah, everyone else we pretty much talked about. I think Rupert is definitely someone who I think next
Yeah.
year I'll probably be looking at. Richard Hatch has to make it next year. I
yeah.
think being as
Yeah.
the first winner like just kind
If
of like is
Yeah, I feel like if there was like four of us, I feel like Hatch would have definitely have been chosen. Like
definitely
if there was
Yeah.
like like another person there where they had three people, I feel one of us definitely would have scooped up Richard Hatch to put on there.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have to wait another year to get Malcolm in.
Exactly. Hey, he might make it next year.
Yeah.
You
I
never
really think that the more this happens, like the bar of entry is gonna kind of like shift a little bit down. So,
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
um,
see.
so yeah, let's do a little recap. So this is your class, your Survivor class of 2024. You got Tony Vlachos. You got Sandra Diaz Twine. You got John Cochran. You got Sari Fields. You got Parvati Shallow. You got Russell Hantz. You got Tom Westman. And you got Sarah Lacina.
Solid crew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very, very solid. I'm glad I could at least get two people in. So I'm
To
happy
be
with it.
fair, I feel like you know, never feel bad for like wanting to vouch for your favorites. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
like
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't fault it at all. I see the flaws there. But yeah, I just think I'll just come with the same case
Yeah.
next year.
He
uh-huh.
as I said, he is absolutely a future Hall of Famer. Like he
Mhm.
absolutely deserves to be here. I just don't think it's the first class.
That's
Yeah,
very fair. That's very
uh,
fair. And I
yeah,
can see that. I mean, there's so many legends that we just inducted. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jake, so much for being here with us. You got anything you want to shout out here? Now is the time to do it.
yeah, absolutely. So, Tribe of Nerds, so we are about to drop our last interview of the year tomorrow with Marion DeVos from Survivor South Africa. That's a great interview, a legend of international Survivor. So yeah, go check that one out. Gonna have finish our Pokemon Soul Link Season 1. Austin and I will finish that, and we'll see how we can finish up the Kanto region. And then our other last podcast of the year is reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So we're trying to figure out the logistics of that right now. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And then we got a lot of stuff going on next year. We've got more Australian Survivor coverage. Some big seasons there. We've got a special series with the Vanquish host Kristen Parsons and I, and Michael I think is going to be joining us for it. So we'll wait to tease that. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on next year for Tribe Nerds, so stay tuned.
Nice.
Nice,
All
nice,
right.
nice.
And one thing we have to plug, Jake is one of our moderators for our org that we'll be doing in January. Yeah, if you want to be a part of Casino Royale, apply. We are still looking for people. We want to see some of the fans on the show. Make a name for themselves on here. Yeah. And also just get to play, have a fun time, have a fun 2 nights on Saturday, Sunday, the 18th and 19th. And yeah, so please apply for
Yeah,
Rye.
Yeah.
Apply for Rye. That's the slogan.
Yeah. I
yeah,
I love that your internet worked just for the end of the podcast
Well,
and the
no,
plug.
I turned it off, so I was having technical issues. So I was like, all right, it's near the end. Let me get my face out there a little bit. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah.
I
Um,
know.
I don't
The
know. It was
screen
like
time
that.
king got less on screen time.
But my voice, just my voice alone, was able to you know, get people engaged, get people to enjoy the content. So
true.
yeah, it's not just the screen, it's the ears, it's the earphones, earbuds, all those that I'm also the king of.
Okay, well, I'm joking, and that has been the Survivor Hall of Fame Class 2024. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.
Peace.